Sometimes parliamentary things go right, and we get modest victories, small results. And we have just recently had government accept the idea of what we call lifetime homes, of requiring builders, when they build any new home, to incorporate a set of standards which will give accessibility to people as they age, and indeed give accessibility to young people who come home with a buggy with the baby in it and have to get up those 3 steps. Not anymore. Those young people who break a leg and are in a wheelchair for a few weeks, months. We want a home that won't evict you if things go wrong, a truly accessible home. And government has decided to adopt the standards, having consulted everybody in the usual way and taken about 3 years to do it. They will adopt for all future new building what we call Part M, which is the bit of the building regulations that relates to accessibility, Part M42. It's also a motorway, I think, somewhere, the M42. But in this context, we have achieved, I think, some breakthroughs on accessibility. And this is the lifetime homes that result will make a big difference, I think, in the future as the house builders go forward. It shows that one of the ways government can do useful things is to regulate. We mustn't be afraid of that. The house builders were not planning to adopt these standards until they had to. And once they had to, once regulation was in place, then things change and things happen. And we have seen a change in regulations. Now, I've just been chairing for Oxford University something on creating healthy cities. What makes a healthy city? And of course, aging is part of this, looking at how one can ensure longer lives that are healthy. And this has opened my eyes a bit to the value of not just lifetime homes, but of lifetime neighborhoods, of thinking of the neighborhood. And Ian has used the slogan in his excellent work. And Ian, just to say in passing, great with the progress on the ISO, and, keep us parliamentarians in the loop on that. But lifetime neighborhoods and neighborhoods that care, yes, they coincide. Lifetime neighborhoods means thinking of the neighborhood that you build in terms of how much health and well-being it will create and sustain in the years to come. I'm afraid, once again, I'm going to give the house builders, any of you here house builders, give you a hard time. You wouldn't do the lifetime homes unless you had to. You won't do lifetime neighborhoods unless that's a requirement of the planners, that they incorporate into new developments the extra amenities and facilities and the good things that make a bunch of houses into a community, into a really useful place for one to age and indeed bring up families and all of the rest of it. And I think a couple of things about healthy cities, healthy neighborhoods, lifetime neighborhoods that have struck me. One is the fact that being amongst green things, being in an environment in which there are trees and there is landscape, this is very, very precious. The garden cities had that name for a reason. Gardens and greenery and nature really mean a lot to your health and well-being, your mental health and well-being, and having that on your doorstep, not being just in a place where every last inch has been taken up, squeezing in the maximum number of homes onto the site. That is important in itself. And the other thing is the ability to walk to places safely and cleanly and easily. We know that the obesity epidemic has struck across the world. In America, life expectancy is falling, and that is not least because of the obesity that America suffers from on a grand scale. The use of the motor car to move from just outside the front door to just outside the door of wherever you want to be. This is not good for us. And we need, in terms of creating tomorrow's communities, lifetime neighborhoods, we need to think of the value of being able to walk and cycle and indeed I got this new phrase, I hadn't heard it before, but walking and wheeling. You need to be able to wheel, because we may have scooters in the future in greater numbers than at the moment. But walking and wheeling, we need neighborhoods where we can get around without using the dreaded motor vehicle, which creates congestion and pollution. And even if we electrify vehicles, Oxford University has been great in digging out all these studies. Even if all of our vehicles were electrified, and that's not going to happen before 2050, I'm afraid. It takes a long time for old cars to get off the road. But even if all the cars were electric, we still have the same kind of problems. 45% of the harmful particulates that come out of motor vehicles are from tire and brake use and wear and the rubber on the road. So half. We will only lose half, even if we get to the point where there's only electric vehicles on the road, which is not in my lifetime for sure. So reducing car traffic is good for climate change, it's good for the planet, but it's also good for us. And that, I think, is a lesson that's been coming out of the Creating Healthy Cities Commission that I've been doing for Oxford. So I'll try and do the keep brief bit that's Ian's other slogan for the day, and keep it brief. But what I feel in terms of the future of the ISO program at the back, giving us the standards that we can all adopt and hang on to, we need to recognize that we can create quite different communities in the future than those that we have been part of in recent years. What we have done is to say to the house builders, the volume house builders who do about 80% of all of the house building in the UK, we've said, it's up to you. You bring us your proposals, and we'll reject them, of course, in the first instance. The planning system will do that quite safely. But eventually you will manage to squeeze these through. But it's all yours. We understand that you're there to make a profit, but we hope for the best, that you will bring us what will be the best communities for the future. It's never going to happen. We need to take back control. I think I've heard that phrase somewhere before. But we need to take back control as society of what we build, what we create, because this lasts 100 years once we've done it. Let's get it right, and let's think of the next generation as well as older people. I will just conclude, if I may, with a few thoughts about retirement housing per se, because with any new community, I don't believe that even the creation of lifetime homes that will be accessible for a lifetime, we have done what we should have done for an aging society. We're still going to need purpose-built, tailor-made, specialist housing that is perfectly suited to our older age. And that has all kinds of advantages on its own, not least in relation to an earlier presentation, to the loneliness that can be cured by there being a place where you've got companionship, you've got social activity, you've come in from the suburbs where you may have been really on your own, a lonely, isolated individual for many years, into a place where you have community, you have sociability, you have other people around to do things with, in fact, other people to help. Because one of the characteristics, I chaired one of the housing associations here that does a lot of housing for older people. And one of the characteristics I discovered of living in one of our apartments was that you help other people. There is mutual support in retirement schemes. You discover that you can be useful even though you may be 82 because you're fitter and better and you can do something that somebody else next door can't do, and you help her. And those friendships are really valuable to you. It gives you meaningfulness even in later years. So I think that we're going to need to create those mini communities, those retirement communities within the broader neighborhoods and within the broader communities around. We will not see an end to the need for them. And it will, in fact, even though with better standards, the lifetime homes will now be the dominant feature of new building once the building regulations are passed. We've still got some parliamentary stuff to do. But even if all new homes are just as we would like them, it'll still take about 100 years to replace the stock that we've got. So we can't wait, and we need homes that are purpose-built, properly designed, using what we call happy standards. That was from our Housing Our Aging Population panel for innovation, the happy standards, which we're constantly keeping under review and linking with Ian's ISO work. So not all bad news from Parliament. Sometimes they get a few things right, and I shall return invigorated from the earlier presentations, which have been really good. Thank you very much.